Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
Just go out there and be awesome. Like, how are you not just awesome? Will you stop sucking? Just be awesome. Like, run faster.
And Brandan Schultz.
Case closed. Richard Sherman hates Russell Wilson, and now the team's going to be terrible because the locker room divide is real. Adam, let's close up shop, buddy.
Go Hawks!
On a quest to own the West, yippee-ki-yay, we make the ground shake. On game day, 12 man, yeah, he's feeling it is vital. The Seahawks coming to take division titles. We are Coach Carroll, cause he's in.
Football is back. Seahawks training camp is underway, and we are fired up. Welcome to episode 164 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joined by my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Oh my gosh, Brandon, it is so excited. Football players running around doing football things with football uniforms on, like actual football. No more rumors about who hates who. None of that garbage. Down to business. It's here. Training camp has started.
I know, and there's so much news that has happened compared to the offseason where you have to look at every little thing, like find out, okay, did Bobby Wagner get a new puppy? Did Russell Wilson and Ciara go on a date this week? Those are the things where you're digging for Seahawks information. Now we have more Seahawks information than we'll probably even get to in the show. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, it's getting a little better. I'm not going to go quite as far as you did on that one. I mean, there's still some things out there, like you're taking the word of what, such and such reporter saw while he was at training camp. We've been to training camp, Brandon. We've been down there with the reporters. Tell me, how much can you actually observe from right there? I'm just asking.
From where the reporters are, it's, actually the people that are sitting on the hill and watching, like the actual Seahawks fans have a better view than the actual reporters. But there is still a lot to talk about. Kam Chancellor, Adam, locked up for another 3 years this week. That's probably the biggest news to come out of training camp.
And amazing news, too, man. No better news to me than hearing that Bam Bam will most likely retire as Seahawk.
I like it. What I didn't like, though, some sad news to start training camp. Top pick Malik McDowell not out there for the first practice, and come to find out he was in an ATV accident. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, ride four-wheelers safely, man. Ride four-wheelers safely.
There was a trade that came in right before training camp. The Seahawks and Chiefs make a player-for-player trade. We'll get into that. Some other additions to the team right before camp with some new signings, the fullback, a couple of linebackers. Still acquiring linebackers as we go into training camp. It's all about the linebackers.
Hey, man, they're super deep at the linebacker position this year. Pete Carroll was gushing about that in his presser the other day. And a familiar face among those who have come back.
Indeed, And the Seahawks have, Adam, what I think is a sneaky good signing to help the offensive line. So we'll talk about that and some other news on the offensive line as well.
This is an under-the-radar signing.
Very, very under the radar. You would not have expected this.
This is how I know you're hardcore, by the way.
Right.
Is this little bit of news. You guys will be impressed with Brandon's dirt digging here. This is pretty impressive.
And maybe we will work in some of the Richard Sherman offseason stuff, because there was a little bit of something that came in after we got done recording the last show. So we'll see if we can work that in there. If not, offseason's over. We can get moving on.
What was that?
His interview with, talking about he actually confirmed that he cursed out Russell Wilson on the field.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's no wonder I forgot about that story. Yeah, we talk trash when we practice.
Yeah, I know.
Huh.
Go figure.
Yeah,
pretty much exactly what we said about, 6 months ago.
Right. Well, see, now here's the interesting thing. You can have a writer like Peter King, who was visiting Seahawks training camp just yesterday, and noting how chippy and how intense the practice was, talking about how Doug Baldwin and Sherman got into it. You know what he didn't do? He didn't write a story about how much they hate each other. He just knew that they were out there competing. So that's the difference between somebody, say, like Seth Wickersham with an axe to grind, and maybe Peter King, who wants to show up and just kind of observe and then report, like a journalist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird how that works.
It's amazing.
Actual senior respected journalist.
Yeah. So there's just a little magnifying glass on bad journalism compared to good journalism. Maybe that's not even the right way to say that. Sensationalism compared to good journalism.
There you go.
Because, but lots of other things to talk about, Brandon, including Bam Bam Cam ain't going nowhere. We got him forever.
A 3-year extension signed worth reportedly $36 million. So a 3-year extension on top of the 1 year that he was currently under contract in. Bam Bam Kam going to be in a Seahawks uniform if all goes well for the next 4 years.
Absolutely. And look, a lot of people I saw were very concerned about the signing in the sense that that's a lot of money regarding his age, but everybody seems to think he's like 33. He's 29. So even if he plays all 4 years, we're talking about the end of this contract being at 33, not like 36, 37. Those are the contracts that get you in trouble. I mean, do you think we'll have Kam all the way till he's 33? I don't know. I mean, I see that for sure. You've got another 2 quality years of Kam Chancellor. But at $25 million guaranteed, because that's the money that counts, right? Like the overall contract, let's not worry about that too much. $25 million over 4 years, basically. I mean, if he only does play for 2 more years, then you end up terminating the contract. They have ways to spread out that cap hit and all that. I think it's a fabulous signing considering what he means to the team.
I think about Kam Chancellor over the past few years, and we've gone back and forth about this just as we start to think, I think this team could do without Kam Chancellor, right? We've had those thoughts.
Yeah,
and
had them.
Every time we have those thoughts, he comes out and does something spectacular to win a game, whether or not it's punching out the ball out of Calvin Johnson's hands at the end of the Detroit game, or causing the Adrian Peterson fumble in the Vikings playoff game that got the ball back for the Seahawks, allowed them to get the go-ahead score and get the win against the Vikings in the playoffs. I mean, this guy was the Super Bowl 48 MVP. I know he didn't get voted in as the MVP, but we all
sure
know.
Was.
We all know as Seahawks fans.
Ask Demaryius Thomas.
Ask Demaryius Thomas. Ask just any
Wes
of those.
Welker.
Yeah. Kam Chancellor laying the wood in the Super Bowl and setting the tone. And really, it's the way he sets the tone. It's the mentality. Coach Carroll, he broke it down exactly why Kam Chancellor was extended for these 3 years.
How consistent is he in the message that he stands for and the person that he stands up to be? When times are tough, who comes to the front and says or does the things that you need to see to give other guys hope that, we're okay here. He gives you that feeling. You can't discourage him. You can't get him in a bad way. He just will not go there. He just has such great belief, and that belief it gets transferred to other players and the people around him because you just feel him. And you say, okay, I may not be feeling right, but he's okay. I'll take that next step, and we'll go with him. That's leadership, and he's all about that.
Kam Chancellor, all about the leadership.
That can't be understated. And he really is one of the guys that embodies Seahawks style of football. I mean, when you talk Legion of Boom, he is the boom. He's the exact essence of what it means to be a Seahawks defender. In his personality, you can see when, just like Pete said, when the team starts to fracture, say when Richard Sherman's throwing a hissy fit on the sideline, who's the guy that gets in his face? Who's the only guy that has the standing and the cojones and the respect of everybody on that team to get into Richard Sherman's face? It's Kam Chancellor. He is the guy. He is the alpha dog of that defense, which is a really important part if you want to play at that same level that you've played at for the last 4 or 5 years where you've led the league in scoring defense. I mean, he's a huge component to that. It's a lot like Ray Lewis when he played for the Ravens. He was the heart and soul of that defense. He was the inspirational leader. He was the guy that rallied everybody around. I mean, he was, just like Pete said, the tone setter. Yeah. And I don't think that can be undersold or undervalued.
No, I agree. And you hinted on the injury concerns, and we've talked about this a lot too. Kofi in New York, he posted on our Facebook page. Yeah. He said, I'm not liking this extension. I feel like the team needed to invest the money elsewhere. Lynch got extended, then he retired after missing a lot of games. Kam is out for several games a year, and he's getting up there. I just get this feeling the Hawks will get burned by this contract. And I think that goes back to the fact that Kam Chancellor missed 9 games over the last 2 years. And that after being relatively healthy for the most part of his career. So there is that concern of breaking down late in his career.
Oh, I get it. I totally understand that thought process. And look, I mean, if anybody would agree with Kofi on the idea that, maybe we could spend some resources in other places, offensive line. But he really is that integral. And not only that, but what this says to potential free agents, veteran players on your own team, when you're looking at, if you perform and you play up to your standard, do you then get rewarded? Does this team actually stand by you?
Yeah.
Because let us not forget, Kam Chancellor sat out a couple games 2 years ago, PO'd that he was underpaid at his position. The Seahawks didn't blink. They didn't extend him at that point on principle, but they also told him, hey, if you play up to snuff, when the time comes, we will reward you. Now, as a player at the time, you don't want to hear that.
Right.
But that's what happened. And then at the end of it, John Schneider was a man of his word. The organization were men of their word. And I think that goes a long ways when you're looking at prospective free agents going down the line or other future stars that come up to their second and third contracts. And it gives you a place of trust to actually negotiate with these players.
Yeah, especially coming into the third contract. And we heard Earl Thomas in his press conference talking about it on Tuesday, that he was watching this. He was watching to see what happened, because if something were to happen to Kam, with him getting up in age, he was taking that as a cue, I think, to see how this team was going to move forward and if they were going to do it with or without Kam. And I think if Kam didn't get extended, I think Earl was going to see that as writing on the wall that, things might be coming to the end for the Legion of Boom. And now not so much.
I think that he's not the only person that was looking at that. I think the entire team was, given Kam's stature on the team. But this was kind of an indication of how the organization feels about this defense and this core going forward for the next 3 or 4 years. And to bring up Peter King's article here, he talked about how the players are getting up there. You're going to have something like 25 players that are 27 or 28. And it's like, yeah, at 27 and 28, not 33 and 34. I don't understand. Like, somehow the whole narrative has been shifted about this window closing to where, for just the Seahawks, to where now you're an old team, even though they were the 10th youngest roster, I believe, last year, that you are becoming an old team when you have guys in their late 20s, not their early 30s, not even their mid 30s, their late 20s. Now suddenly that's old. But everywhere else in the league, Tom Brady's going to turn 96 and their window's not closing. They're fine. What could go wrong? So it's pretty funny. But you can see that the organization obviously believes that this window isn't even close to closing yet.
No, and one thing that I'm excited about with Kam in terms of, going back to health concerns, Kam Chancellor had surgery on both his ankles earlier this offseason to remove bone spurs. And just hearing him talk about the impact that's going to have on him and how much better he feels going into the season, I think we can be pretty excited.
It was kind of tough on me because, the movements, I had to think before I moved sometimes, because I know if I would have took a certain step, it would have clicked and I would have felt the pain. Now I feel more free moving around and I don't really have to think, and my body just, just flowing.
So the Kam Chancellor we saw last year was him having to think before he moved.
Right. And he played at a Pro Bowl level.
Yeah,
exactly. He comes into this season, again, I understand it's double ankle surgery because he had it done on both feet in one day. He's like, yeah, let's just knock this out, which is unbelievably impressive. But these bone spurs have been a problem for the past 3 or 4 years. That's been part of the reason why he missed games. And his health and his outlook going forward looks great, at least for this season. And I truly believe for the next. I feel really solid about that. And then you combine that with your other safety getting healthy here at the beginning of training camp. It gets kind of exciting when you think about the Seahawks defense and what they can accomplish this year.
I just think back to where we were a couple years ago when we were talking to former agent Joel Corey when Kam Chancellor was holding out, and the fact just how far we've come in those 2 years to where at that point in time, Joel was saying how he didn't see really any way that a player could come back from that and stick with the team, that, a trade was almost inevitable. And here he is re-signing and likely going to be a career Seahawk. It's a long way to go, and I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and it does speak to the way that the Seahawks manage relationships. And so for the last 2 years, it'd been with Kam with his contract, and 2 years ago it was that, and then the year before that it was Mike Bennett, and then last year it's Richard Sherman. And yet somehow after you go through that turmoil with each and every one of these players, you come out on the other side with a stronger relationship. And I think that's very different than a lot of other teams. I mean, there's a lot of guys that wouldn't be able to get over themselves on that. And I think that kind of speaks to the culture in the Seahawks locker room. It's a little different mentality that way. That band of brotherhood's a real thing.
Yeah, Pete Carroll, one to thank for that for sure. Now, guys under contract, Adam, for at least the next 2 seasons. Let's run down the list. Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner, Richard Sherman, Kam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Doug Baldwin, Michael Bennett, KJ Wright, Cliff Averill, and Tyler Lockett. 10 dudes who have played in Pro Bowls are under contract for the next 2 years.
What a bunch of stiffs. This team's going to be terrible. The window's closed.
Window's closed.
It's done. It's done. Exactly. You put it in that perspective, and I mean, these guys are loaded for the next 2 years. I mean, it really is phenomenal. And not only that, but then you get to kind of see how the team evolves moving forward. You see with the last draft and all the draft capital they spent in the defensive backfield. They really are trying to set themselves up for the next wave on top of that. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to watch. And I'm super stoked for this season, man. I can't wait. And, part of the reason for that is the news about Earl Thomas coming back and playing not playing, but practicing at a high level.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll just effusive with the praise for Earl and his recovery. And wow, that's super cool to hear.
I liked Earl's comment about the new guys, too, having the new guys as part of the draft picks. Reporters asked him about what his first reaction was when he saw all these new young defensive backs drafted to the team.
It's going to be hard for him to start. That's what I was thinking initially. But then, you switch over to another gear and you got to help them. Because late in games or late in the season, somebody else go down, these guys got to be able to come in and help us out. And that's why we always have this motto of each one teach one. And, they got to be able to, we can't miss a beat.
I like both sides to that mentality, hey, it's going to be hard for you guys to find a spot on this team, but also on the same side of the token, we're going to help you in case you do have to come in at some point.
Well, you have to be pretty secure in yourself as a human being and then also as a player to kind of have that mentality, because at that point, what you're saying is, hey, you're not taking my job. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
But in the interim, I'm going to show you every trick and tool in my bag that I can and that you're able to process and learn. And that's going to have you push me even harder in practice to be sure that you don't get my starting gig. So, and just like Earl mentioned there too, you don't know when those guys are going to be the guy that you look at next to you out there on the field in big moments and be like, I hope he's got this. And if you want to win a championship, you're going to need that depth to be ready to rock. And so pretty cool to see him as a mentor in that role. One thing that is not pretty cool is whatever Earl Thomas calls those things that he's wearing as shorts with like the leggings underneath that. I don't understand that. Look, if anybody's been watching training camp,
yeah.
I mean, please explain to me what Earl's thinking here, because that is a football fashion dote. I'm sorry. It's like a football pant cut off. I don't understand it.
Earl doesn't care, and apparently a couple guys in the offensive line too, wearing some super tight short shorts that I'm sure the ladies enjoy.
Do they?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
It must just be an offensive lineman thing where they get a kick out of it, or because somebody asked him about it because it was Ethan Posick and Jordan Roos. And
okay, so rookies.
Well, that was the thinking, but they said no, we just like it.
We just like it.
And then Earl was out there. Earl's not a rookie.
I know, that's what the confusing part was. I was like, you have mirrors in the locker room, right? It's a bad look, man. It doesn't look good.
I like the confidence of it.
But maybe that's why Earl Thomas looks faster than ever out on the field. I mean, according to Pete Carroll, this year coming in, Earl Thomas better than he's been in the last 3 to 4 years. Not only in just his physical makeup and just how he's taking care of his body, but in overall speed. He honestly believes that Earl Thomas is faster than he's been since year 1, year 2. And that would be really cool if it was true. But, again, it's the off season and training camp and all that. So I like the idea that coming off the broken leg early, he's already looking like the Earl Thomas of old.
Oh, yeah. Carroll has great things to say about everybody, right, when it comes to training camp. Everybody looks good. One of those guys that they asked him about in particular, Pete Carroll, says George Fant has impressed this offseason.
Okay, wait. Don't tell me. Let me guess. Is he fired up?
That's one of his favorite words. Let's see if he uses it.
Nobody's done more than George Fant. George had just a fantastic spring and off season. I think he was 319. He weighed in at fantastically fit and strong. It's the first time, you can imagine, the first time he ever had a football off-season weight program, and so just through the hard work, he got bigger and stronger and was able to add maybe 22, 23 pounds, from what he was last year. So it's all great weight. He's in great shape, and we're really excited about that. I mean, he's probably the top of the heap in that regard.
No fired up, but I heard we're really excited, and I heard 2 fantastics in there.
Yeah, he had 2 fantastics in there. These are the stories that are the hardest for me to deal with when it comes to training camp in the off season. Is so-and-so is 5 pounds heavier, 5 pounds lighter,
right.
Blah, blah, blah. It's just, for the most part, it's garbage. You never know what that translates into. I mean, last year, Russell Wilson had bulked up. Now this year, Russell Wilson has bulked down. It's dumb. It's one of the dumber things you can buy into when people talk about players in the offseason.
I like the phrase you just coined, bulked down, yeah.
Yeah, look it up. Yeah. How about unbulked?
Unbulk. I like unbulking.
Yeah, he unbulked.
He needed to unbulk a little bit.
He did. So he's unbulked a little bit, and George Fant bulked up. I'm sure that means that he'll be a Pro Bowler this year. So write it in with Sharpie. It's happening.
You don't have to go that far. It's okay.
No, I don't.
No,
I don't.
We just need him to be a little bit good.
Okay. All right. Well, I was just doing it for Tim. I was doing it for Tim Moon.
I know.
In the Seahawks pod Ring of Honor.
You guys have a thing going back and forth between George Fant. I understand. It's cool.
Yeah. He's the number one super fan. And, God bless him. But, it's just tough. But the other thing that's interesting is that they're still easing Luke Joeckel into things. Yeah, in training camp.
You see him out there working in a little bit on the left side, primarily, right at the left guard, and both working in at the left tackle. So I think they see him as insurance if the whole Fant experiment doesn't work out, and view him as a guy that can play left tackle if Fant happens to not work out.
From all the comments that I've heard from Pete Carroll over the last couple of days, I think you're spot on with that. They definitely are like, let's see where George is at first. Mm-hmm. And then if it doesn't look like he's made all the strides that we need him to make, then exactly like you said, in case of emergency, break glass and bring out another risk in Luke Joeckel and toss him out there at left tackle. But at least he's played there. It is interesting to me that he's getting so little work, and they talk about it being the knee issue. He suffered, what was it, in October?
Last year, yeah.
It was early on. So the idea that he wouldn't be ready to go by now, that's a little disconcerting to me, especially when you pay the guy $8 million.
I think you think back to normal ACL injuries, and it kind of takes about a year to get over it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of on the normal timeline. He's out there. He's practicing. I'm not too... The interesting thing about the offensive line is we still have no idea which way it's going to go. We pretty much know that Justin Britt's going to be the center. I think we can be pretty certain about that.
Feel solid? Yep.
That's the one place I feel solid. But if things don't work out with Fant, if Joeckel has to go out to left tackle, maybe Glowinski ends up being back at left guard instead of at right guard. Hearing some good things about Ode Ibushi, that they brought in from the Texans, and him maybe starting on the right side at guard. Jermaine Ifedi does not sound like it sounds like he's had the struggles.
I haven't seen any reports on that.
Okay. So. I've just heard some reports from some of the reporters at training camp saying that he has not looked good out at right tackle, and maybe Posick is going to be challenging him for the right tackle job. With the latest news of that center in Jacksonville getting $10 million a year, and Justin Britt probably better than that dude that we've never heard of, maybe Jermaine Ifedi needs to start taking snaps and go to center as part of the Britt progression next year.
Yeah, it might end up coming to that. We'll see. One thing that does make me a little nervous is, what is it? It's August 2nd. When's the first preseason game?
It's like,
August 13th.
a week and a half.
August 13th. Okay, in 11 days out, you still hear reports, oh yeah, Tom Cable mixing and matching everybody, just seeing how everybody can play. Got catfish! Just pick dudes who can play and have them play there and get good at that one thing. Can we just give them one job, not 5, you know?
At what point in any of the past seasons have we had a solid offensive line going into the week 1 preseason where you know the dudes are going to start where they're going to start?
None. What season did we have a good offensive line? You know, I mean, the proof is in the pudding when it all works out at the end of the day. And it's just, it's unbelievably frustrating. But they did early reports from, I think it was like Stephen Cohen or somebody like that. One of the beat reporters saying that the offensive linemen held up fairly well in one-on-one drills for the first time in training camp. And that's encouraging at the very least, that they're actually competing with some big time talent on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, we'll take that good news and go with that. On the defensive side of the ball, I was happy to see Coach Carroll saying Jeremy Lane is on fire out there and looking fantastic.
Jeremy Lane had a fantastic offseason. It's like he made a big shift in his mentality, his approach, and everything. I mean, he is so serious. He's studied so much. He's applied himself in his conditioning work, in his strength work, his focus in the field. He's been fantastic. You ask anybody in the program, Jeremy Lane is on fire right now. And I think he sees the opportunity. He wants to go for it. He wants to own it. And we couldn't ask for more. So he's off to a great start. He looks fantastic.
You know that Bleacher Report has locked onto that one and put fire emojis in the headlines. 3 fantastics in that clip from Coach Carroll.
Yes. Oh, man. I'm sure every Bleacher Reporter headline writer was licking their chops at that. No doubt about it.
Jeremy Lane, fire.
Fire. Now, Brandon, after going through the Kristen Michael saga of last year in what the Around the NFL podcast guys like to joke, they called it the awakening. Like, wait, you know, oh, he's just changed as a human being, rah, rah, rah. To hear that about Jeremy Lane this offseason, does that make it easier or harder to buy what Pete Carroll's selling right now?
Oh, man. I want to buy it is the problem.
Yeah.
And now when you frame it that way, now I'm concerned.
Well, here's the thing. I was initially concerned, right? Until I started reading like Shail Kapadia, you know, what he's been observing at camp, what some of the other reporters have been too, and Jeremy Lane's play on the field and his practice habits have been backing up what Pete Carroll is saying. And so now I have corroboration. You know, I don't just have Rah Pete telling me that Jeremy Lane's on fire. I've got some other guys saying that he's going out there and competing at a high level. Plus, unlike Kristen Michael, Jeremy Lane has a track record of playing well. He had a down year last year. Yes, geez, we've all talked about this ad nauseum. But he had a couple very solid years before that as a very good, solid player. And so when you combine that, you know, he had one hiccup last year compared to a lot of solid play, that he's looking good so far early in camp, and the coach, you know, putting out that kind of praise and saying that he's kind of grown up a little bit and it's really clicked for him. I'm going to call it guardedly optimistic.
Well, you've now put that seed of doubt in my mind, but I've been optimistic all off season.
You're always optimistic. I got to sit here and put seeds of doubt in your mind.
But especially with Jeremy Lane, we have talked about this, that I thought that going on months now that he would be the guy starting opposite Richard Sherman come week 1. And now to hear all this, it just feels like it's backed up what I've been thinking all off season, and it makes me happy.
Look, it does make sense in the sense that we have been talking about it, and the track record is there for him. And I think you and I both could kind of feel a bounce back year for him, especially, I think this is a contract year, right?
Oh, no, Jeremy Lane's under contract for 3 more years. But
3 more years.
This is his last guaranteed year. So
so this is his contract year.
Well, his cap hit is $7.5 million for the next 2 years for Jeremy Lane. And so if he doesn't perform well this year, then they can cut him and be kind of free and clear of those last 2 years at $7.5 million per year.
Right. So A lot of pressure right there.
Yes, it is a pressure year for sure. Yeah. If he wants to keep his contract.
If you're playing for that third contract, which, that's your first contract kind of gets you going. The second contract kind of gets, you and immediate family set for life. And then the third contract, that's generational wealth.
Sure.
Like that's how that works. And he's probably got that in mind and gunning for that third contract. So keep at it, Jeremy.
A lot to play for. Let's take a look at some of the other signings coming into camp, because there's a couple. I made a note of the 10 dudes that have played in Pro Bowls being under contract the next 2 years. You can add an 11th guy to that, because the Seahawks and Chiefs made a trade right before training camp. Mm-hmm. Seahawks send Kevin Pierre-Louis to the Chiefs for 2017 Pro Bowl linebacker DJ Alexander, who made the Pro Bowl based on his special teams play. And now you can see the Seahawks looking to get better on special teams.
Yeah, I thought this was a sneaky good trade, because I know you loved KPL.
I do,
and he's a cool guy. I mean, I like him, the person, a lot. But as far as the player goes, undersized, couldn't tackle. I mean, that's really, at the end of the day,
on defense, he was kind of he was more of a special teams ace than he was the kind of guy that we hoped he would become at linebacker playing on defense.
Right. But I mean, I didn't see him as a difference maker on special teams at all. The idea that you could trade straight up KPL for Alexander, who is a Pro Bowler on special teams, man, you just got better, significantly better in the third phase of the game. And, a lot of people probably look at this trade and are like, oh, okay, cool. Whatever. This is kind of a sneaky good trade. This is one of those, these are the types of moves when you have a really good GM that come down. At the end of the day, you're like, I didn't even know that could be on anybody's radar. Heck, I mean, tell me if you had thought about DJ Alexander ever in your life.
No.
Probably not. But when that trade comes down, you're like, dang, that makes a lot of sense. Good work, John.
It makes a lot of sense, but it also makes me wonder, like, what do the Chiefs see in Kevin Pierre-Louis?
Who cares?
to send us a Pro Bowl caliber player. Maybe he's not that great on defense either, but if he's a stud in special teams, that can help the team for sure. Initially, I thought maybe DJ Alexander. I wasn't sure who was going to back up Bobby Wagner, but It sounds like he's more of a KJ Wright type backup.
I see.
And Michael Wilhoit going to be backing up Bobby Wagner. So I don't know. I'm not super confident in our second level of linebackers, but can't be more happy with KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner starting.
So you're not super comfortable with having a bunch of guys who are borderline starters as your backups?
I don't know if Alexander is a borderline starter. Wilhoit maybe. And then, we brought back Mike Morgan for the strong side linebacker. So
borderline starter.
Yeah. And was our starter last year.
Exactly. There's a bunch of guys there who have played games in this league as a starter, and they're all names that you, or at least I don't remember off the top of my head. Pete Carroll was talking about the competition at the Sam linebacker and rattled off 3 names. Yeah. And how excited he was about what they're doing, especially one guy who had played corner apparently in college and then had moved to inside linebacker for his previous team in the NFL and then was here. And so playing that Sam position, he was doing really well in space, but still being able to get after the quarterback. He was super excited. I can't remember for the life of me who the heck that was, but they're guys that do have experience and have played. That's a significant value to have at the backup positions at that case. I mean, it's not like, you're going to have Ray Lewis in his prime as your backup to Bobby Wagner? I mean,
I know we've talked about this before. Not every dude can be awesome.
Right. Not every dude can be awesome.
Marcus Smith, another guy that was brought in to play kind of that defensive end or Sam linebacker position.
That's the guy.
Is that the guy?
That's the guy that Pete was talking about. Yeah.
I brought him from Philly, and he was a former first-round pick.
Okay.
So the other additions, fullback, Marcel Reese coming back to the team.
I think he fits in, obviously, to what we do. We saw him be a contributor last year. I like the signing. It's just another guy that could come in. I mean, honestly, let's say every running back got hurt. He could literally come in and play tailback for a game, and you could survive.
When I look at the Seahawks backfield now, it's feeling pretty stacked. I mean, CJ Prosise is in camp. He was out with the flu, I guess, the very first day, but he's in and healthy. Thomas Rawls in and healthy. Eddie Lacy, hitting his weight marks in and running around. So there's a lot of competition at that position. and a spot that we need, the Seahawks need to improve on going into this year.
Well, I mean, they've loaded up and put as much talent behind that offensive line as they can. So hopefully that it's enough to overcome the deficiencies in the blocking scheme as the season goes on. I guess I'm not super optimistic that this offensive line is going to be an above average offensive line for these guys to run behind. It's probably still going to be a below average line, just hopefully not the worst. And if that's the case, then somebody like Thomas Rawls should be able to create a little something out of nothing here or there and really kickstart this running game, especially with a healthy Russell Wilson, changing the game with his read option stuff that he basically wasn't able to use at all last year. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about the running game going forward. And Pete Carroll's seemingly recommitting to the running game. And I think you see that not only in the way that he talks, but just like you said, by beefing up the depth there at running back.
Well, I mentioned at the top of the show, we had a sneaky good signing on the offensive line. Lemuel Jean-Pierre coming back to the team, but not as a player. He was coming to the coaching staff as an offensive assistant.
So backup center comes back and as the coach, this is going to be huge. Look, I just said I didn't have a lot of confidence on the offensive line, improving to be an above average one. Scratch that. They're going to be the second best offensive line in the league now that Lem's back, just to add some advice.
I like Seahawks signing these guys like Heath Farwell, Lemuel Jean-Pierre, dudes that kind of struggled to stay in the league, but it's because of their knowledge of the game is what allowed them to at least play at a level that kept them into the NFL for as long as they did.
Well, they often say that that's the type of guy that makes the best coach. For an NBA analogy, a little bit say like Steve Kerr, the coach for the Golden State Warriors. I mean, he's a role player. He was there because he had a very specific skill set, and he was also very intelligent about the game. He's a guy that understands the work and the little things that you need to do every day to be able to compete with the guys who are more physically gifted than you. They say that the stars who are just more physically gifted than everybody else are generally the worst coaches because they're like, just go out there and be awesome. Like, how are you not just awesome?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get
hard.
it. Yeah, just will you stop sucking? Just be awesome. Like, run faster. Like, you run faster from here to there. Jump a little higher.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
Yeah, they don't really have that sense of the little things for the most part that I'd say a role player, a guy who struggles on the fringes of the roster does. So maybe you're right, man. Maybe this is a sneaky good signing. Maybe this is the thing that puts him over the top. Maybe at the end of this year, Brandon, we'll be talking about a Lombardi Trophy in the invaluable role of Lemuel Jean.
Lem. You just call him Lem.
Lemuel Jean-Pierre, right? Is that right?
Lemuel Jean-Pierre.
All right. Well, all right. Lem.
Lem. See, now we have to work on saying his name again. Actually, he's just a coach, so maybe that'll be the last time.
This will be the last time we talk about him.
We don't bring up coaches all that often, but
no.
In a pinch, he can be our fourth-string center, I think.
Fourth string?
Well, yeah, you have Joey Hunt, Ethan Posick, and Justin Britt, right? So
I think he could beat out everybody but Britt probably right now today.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I don't know. Maybe not Posick.
A guy like Lem should be able to beat out a rookie.
You'd think. But yeah, maybe that's just it. We got a guy just waiting in the closet to put on a Superman cape and come out and be mediocre when we need him.
All right, some more news. Let's talk about the biggest injury we don't even know the extent of it. Malik McDowell, kind of the bummer news to start off training camp. That first day of training camp, it was watching the live stream. There were the questions of, well, where's Malik McDowell? Top pick for the Seahawks, not out there on the field. CJ Prosise was another guy that was in question, but found out that his was just stomach issues. But Malik McDowell, come to find out, was in an ATV accident just a couple weeks back and not able to make it out to camp. So clearly serious enough that wasn't able to, even after a couple weeks, make it to Seattle. We see a couple of the Seahawks PR team put out a statement. Malik McDowell put out his statement, and not a lot of information still on exactly what's going on here. But it was just a disappointing way to start off the first day of training camp. And maybe that's just me being selfish. I really hope that Malik's okay. But just kind of a downer for the end of that first day.
Definitely a downer, but compared to what some other teams have suffered right out of the gate with some of their players on their team. I mean, look at the Ravens, man. Yes, disappointing the news about Malik McDowell, but again, not a guy that you were counting on as being like a linchpin, just a nice addition.
Yeah.
And we don't know the extent of the injuries yet. He could very well play this year. He could very well not play this year. I wish him the best because, as a human being, I'm like, man, I don't want to see anybody get smashed up, right?
Right.
But I mean, though, not knowing a lot about it, the one rumor you heard is that it was, facial injuries and maybe concussion and things like that. When I hear something like that, that sounds like when you were riding a four-wheeler, you didn't wear a helmet. You're a dumb catfish. Wear your helmet. To everybody out there, whether you're on your motorcycle, ATV, four-wheeler, whatever, side by side, wear your freaking helmet. I've had enough wrecks growing up on four-wheelers and all that stuff, where I'd be dead right now without a helmet.
Yeah.
Just wear your helmet. It's that simple. Yeah. So that, to me, after reading that, I don't know if that's true or not, but man, that frustrated the heck out of me.
Now, we're kind of piecing it together based on what we know. Part of the reason why Malik McDowell fell to the second round is because he had the poor interview at the combine. There was kind of a lot of people. I've heard Michigan State fans saying, well, he's kind of a knucklehead. So if you're doing knucklehead things like riding an ATV without a helmet, it speaks to that knucklehead factor. So I am concerned about it. And really, the PR statements that were put out don't give me any confidence necessarily that McDowell's even going to be able to play this season. I'll read the Seahawks PR statement first. It says, unfortunately, Malik McDowell was involved in a vehicular accident in which he suffered an injury during the NFL break period. As a precautionary measure, Malik has remained back in Michigan under the care of physicians there. Our medical people have been in constant communication with his physicians and have been monitoring the situation. At this point, it is important for Malik to stay at home and rest. We consider this a long-term relationship and will do whatever is in the best interest of Malik. We look forward to Malik's return to Seattle and we'll update you with any changes. And so with that, you don't really hear any speculation on timeline other than the phrase that we consider this a long-term relationship.
Right. I don't know. I mean, again, we don't know much. It's a lot of speculation. So hopefully not as bad as some fear. My guess would be the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I mean, because a lot of people are like, hey, he's reporting to camp here, so it must not be that bad. And other people are like, he's going to be out forever. I'm guessing you'll probably see him around middle of the year. That'd be my guess.
I mean, if you're just going to speculate based on the information we have,
right,
and kind of shoot for the middle, yeah, because McDowell says that his injury isn't career or life threatening, so that's good to know.
That is good to know. Absolutely. So,
but it doesn't say anything about the season. So we're kind of left in limbo, and I'm sure as soon as we put out the show, we'll have more news. But
of course, that's how that works.
And we'll be back with next week to have more of an update. But as far as riding ATVs, I mean, Jimmy Graham flies planes. So
Tom Brady skis. You know what I mean? Like, these guys still have to live lives. I mean, I don't care if he's out there, bombing around and doing some trail riding. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. If you're going to do it, take calculated risks.
Right.
Maybe don't go up that gnarly hill climb. Watch some of your other buddies do it. Wear a helmet. Just the little things, because I'm sure Jimmy Graham doesn't pass up on the safety inspections for his plane, or, he's always up on because you have to renew different levels of your flying license, correct? Your pilot's license. That's how much I know about flying or piloting, is that I called it a flying license. The pilot's license, you got to stay up on that, and I'm sure he stays up on that. Be safe, take calculated risks.
Well, McDowell was placed on the reserved, did not report injury list. They signed defensive tackle Rodney Coe. That might be the last time we say his name. And looking at the other injuries around the team, Tyler Lockett, Deshaun Shedd, they opened camp on the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list, if you hear that acronym. And what that is these guys come off the list as soon as they're able to practice in the preseason. But if they're still on that list come week 1, then they have to sit out at least the first 6 weeks of the season. And that could maybe be the case for Deshaun Shedd. We don't quite know yet, but it sounds like Tyler Lockett could come off that designation any day now. And then a couple other guys, Deion Jordan, who the Seahawks picked up, a former number 3 pick in the first round back in 2013. He's got a non-football injury that he's dealing with, apparently. And Justin Sr., the Seahawks' 6th round draft pick. Issues with his knees are keeping him off the field right now. Who knows how much of an impact he'll have. But I guess when you only paid 10 or 12 guys on the offensive line, you do want to have some kind of competition. So it's kind of a bummer that he's not out there.
It is kind of a bummer, but again, one of those guys you didn't expect to really crack the starting lineup and maybe even a struggle to make the roster. This obviously makes it even more difficult for him going forward at that point. Guess we'll see how it goes. But again, as far as injuries goes overall, keep your fingers crossed, knocked on wood. It's been so far so good for the Seahawks as a whole.
That's kind of the way the preseason goes, right? You just kind of cross your fingers.
Just hold your breath, man.
Everything's going to go all right.
Yep.
Don't get hurt out there.
Yep. No major injuries. Everybody's, all your key players will be ready to rock week 1,
Yeah. Well, since we are going into the preseason, let's just recap some of the key offseason losses that have happened to the Seahawks. I know a lot of people, you tune out during the offseason. I understand because it's not football season anymore. There's other things to do. So just a bit of a recap on some guys that aren't going to be with the team, maybe some familiar names. There's really not a lot. Brock Coyle, linebacker, special teamer, back up to Bobby Wagner. Gary Gilliam, our starting right tackle from last year. He was picked up by the San Francisco 49ers after the Seahawks placed a restricted tag on him, and the 49ers decided to pay him more than that tag. The Seahawks weren't willing to match it, so he goes on to the 49ers. And then Steven Hauschka, signed by the Buffalo Bills. He's going to be their kicker, which that could be one of the biggest questions, I think, for this team in terms of special teams is because they bring in former Vikings kicker Blair Walsh to fill in behind Hauschka.
Who apparently looked shaky first day of training camp, and then his last 2 days have been money, just drilling everything. So let's hope for the latter.
Yeah.
But when you look at it in totality, the Seahawks definitely have one of the more stable rosters in all of the NFL. I mean, the Kam Chancellor signing just kind of reiterates that. So a lot of reasons to be optimistic about the team that's in place. I mean, this is the same team that's won double-digit games for 5 straight years and have been to at least the divisional round of the playoffs. So without much turnover there, you got to feel like your baseline expectation is, somewhere in that range.
And then another guy that was brought in this offseason, Ode Ibushi, on the offensive line from the Texans. We mentioned his name earlier.
Luke Ibushi.
Yeah. I can see you pulling that one out a few times this year.
Yeah.
Luke Joeckel from the Jaguars, the most money of any player that brought in to play for a 1-year deal out of any of the free agents. Eddie Lacy, running back, who we talked a lot about this offseason. I know you're not a big fan of Lacy, Adam.
I don't know, man. We've kind of gone over it ad nauseum, but we'll see. I'm rooting to be wrong. You
are just such a huge Thomas Rawls fan that I think that your love for Rawls, it's you don't want any competition for that. Like you don't want you just have one kid in your life, so you're not used to spreading your love among many children. And
you have a favorite. Stop it. You have a favorite. You know you do. Look, here's the thing with Rawls. Like, yeah, I do love Rawls, but it's not that I'm afraid of the competition. It's that there isn't any competition. He is that much better than Eddie Lacy. He's a heck of a running back. He's got crazy talent. And listen to him talk and tell me that you're not rooting for him, number one. I mean, he's goofy Earl Thomas, man. He gets you. If you can listen to Thomas Rawls and not get fired up, there's something wrong with you. You are in a coma. Like, that's the only thing that could be true.
If you hear both guys, I really like Eddie Lacy too. But if you listen to both guys, you will come away far more fired up listening to Thomas Rawls. I guarantee that. And there was one thing, we don't give fantasy advice on the show very often. But I think a lot more people, from the sounds of it, are taking Eddie Lacy ahead of Thomas Rawls, and I think that's a mistake. So in your fantasy leagues with non-Seahawks fans that don't know anything, I would tend to lean toward Thomas Rawls for sure.
Yeah, and just some other fantasy advice for you. Quit, because it's stupid. Like, just watch football for football's sake, like reality.
I think Adam's given that advice multiple times over the years. So yeah, thanks for being consistent on that.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to help the people, man. Like, it changes the way you watch football. Don't do it to yourself.
It's true. Don't let it change the way you watch football. But one other guy that, and I think this guy might have the biggest impact of any of the free agents, and that's Bradley McDowell, who was brought in from the Bucs to kind of be the backup safety between Kam Chancellor and Earl Thomas, but also maybe find a place for him on the field. And listening to Kam Chancellor talk about Bradley McDowell, it sounds like it fits right in.
He fits right in. You know, Bradley McDowell is just like us. He's one of us. Just by watching him without the pads on, he looks like he's going to lay some brutal hits. He looks like he has the form, he has the mindset for it. He's a guy who can cover. He's a guy who's picking up on the defense very fast and very effective. And I think he's going to come in, whether we put another package in or not. He's going to come in and do what he has to do. Even on special team, I think he's going to be a guy who's going to make plays and just be able to make impact and add value to the team.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's going to fit right in. That's what we learned out of that. But hey, look, the thing is that this was one of the more underrated signings of the offseason. McDowell was a starter in Tampa Bay, and now you have him as your backup, or that possible big nickel kind of idea. I think he could really thrive in that. I think the Seahawks are really looking forward to experimenting with that. He could be one of those guys that around the NFL that everybody looks at the end of the season and goes, man, didn't see that coming. Mm-hmm. That kind of growth and that kind of impact on the team. And hey, man, I'm excited about it. I really look forward to seeing what Chris Richard comes up with to use this guy's talents.
All right, Adam. Well, I think that sums up the guys that we're looking at. Feels like I'm missing somebody because, I mean, to only lose and we're going Brock Coyle, Gary Gilliam, Stephen Hauschka. I mean, that's all they lost.
Yeah, no, but this team's falling apart though, Brandon, and the window is closing. So
yeah, I mean, we didn't get into Stephen Terrell not coming back, but we don't have to go that deep.
Yeah, right. Well, that's because, I mean, again, this team's falling apart. Like, they're losing everybody. There's no way they can continue to compete.
Well, I mean, that was the clear case with the Seth Wickersham story. Going back to that, and Richard Sherman, he was interviewed once again on ESPN where it came up. And I guess the shocking thing is that now everybody that said that this story by Wickersham was indeed a story. Well, Richard Sherman, he just confirmed that he cursed out Russell Wilson on the practice field.
That's 100% true. Okay. And I've said worse. And I've said worse to Doug, and I've said worse to Curse, because iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. So you come into practice of a team that's about to go to the Super Bowl, and you get a competitive moment, and you try to write a story around it. I'm sorry that our competition and the way we sharpen our iron isn't pretty and cordial. I'm sure if you went to see bad teams, they'll probably get along great. You know what I mean? They'll probably be slapping high fives and doing great. But then you go 4-12. Once again, the reason that article was such nonsense is because you tried to create a rhetoric around something that was totally false. If you told me that moment derailed our season and we went straight downhill from there, then I'd say, wow, he's on to something.
So there you go. Case closed. Richard Sherman hates Russell Wilson, and now the team's going to be terrible because the locker room divide is real, and we can forget about winning another championship. Adam, let's close up shop, buddy. The show peaked after our first season.
And that was it. It was all downhill from there, apparently. No, it's hilarious to me. Look, the things that were reported that Sherman said to Russell Wilson, that's tame compared to what Jared and I talk to each other when we're playing like yard games. Playing a game of cornhole, it's 10 times worse than that. Like, I mean, and it's just two dudes. Like, we're not talking about livelihood and trying to, be great and go to Super Bowls and things like that. I mean, good Lord. I
don't think you can be an NFL player and have to worry about getting your feelings hurt. Like, by that point, I think you're pretty well content with who you are and have been berated enough by enough coaches through high school, through college, and to where I don't think any comment can really impact you mentally. You're that mentally tough that you can make it at the highest level.
Right. And not only that, but then dish it back.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's funny. But, like Richard said, you take a kernel of truth and you paint a big story around it, and that's what you get. You get a whole off season of articles. So I wonder if every single reporter out there for, in the NFL world had to, give like Seth Wickersham maybe, 1% of their yearly salary or something like that for coming up with another topic that they could all talk about.
He gets residuals for coming up with the topic that gives radio hosts and those folks something to piggyback off of for the whole off season.
Yeah, there's got to be like some sort of group reporting pool of money that they divvy out, kind of similar to like revenue sharing with the NFL. It's probably something along those lines. Yeah, that'd be my guess.
I think you're right. All right, Adam. Well, what do you say we hit a break and come back after the break? We have some new members of the flock to welcome. All right. We've got email, a lot of email, and of course, do better and better at life. And we are getting into the second half of the show. Go to homestandsports.com/Seahawkers. And the Homestand Sports folks are giving away a couple pair of free tickets to an event. It's Wednesday night before the Chiefs preseason game. And if you go to homestandsports.com/Seahawkers, you'll find a page there where you can win tickets. It's called Tackle Talks. It's August 23rd at Chop Suey in Seattle. And it's just going to be a place for fans to get together. Jessamine McIntyre's hosting it. She is one of the producers at 710 ESPN, and a lot of local media apparently lined up to be at that event. And so, if you want to go to it, go to homestandsports.com/Seahawkers, fill in your name, your email, and you'll be in the running to win a pair of tickets to Tackle Talks. Should be a good event. And I think the other thing, too, if you just want to buy tickets, you can use the promo code Seahawkers and get $5 off the $25 ticket.
Yeah, super cool, man. Seems like a really neat event. You guys should check that out. And plus, hey, man, you get a chance to go for free. So, check it out and see if you win those tickets.
I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah.
Going for free to a fun event. You can't do any better.
Hard to do with a frown, that's for sure. We'll get into the second half of the show here, Brandon. I didn't know. Could you see me? Could you see me okay? Was my video feed all right? Here on the Skype?
Through the haze of the Missoula smoke? Is that?
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know if the smoke affected that too, man. It's a tough day to be doing podcasting, man. You can barely see 5 blocks. It seems like
this is the perfect day to do podcasting because you can stay inside and you don't have to breathe the smoky air.
There's nothing else to do. You literally have to say literally every direction you look around Missoula, there is a column of smoke like somebody dropped a nuclear bomb and just like mushroom cloud just billowing into the sky.
Stay low to the ground.
I'm lighting a backdraft or backfire, man. If that happens, if it gets that close, I'm going to burn it going back the other way and then have a little space to hang in.
Yeah, stay in the black.
Stay in the black.
That's what keeps you safe.
Yeah. There's a Montana hotshot that invented doing that, by the way. So
yeah, I know.
Well, I know you know, but I don't know that everybody else knows.
Well, Adam, what do you say we welcome some new members of the flock and get into some email?
Awesome, man. Who do we got this week?
All right. Welcome to the flock to Tyler Minium. He's in at the $3 level. So getting in on it's coming up on our yearly Pick'em League. And get in at the $3 level. That makes you eligible for the prizes that we'll have in that. Always a fun time.
It's a great time. So just for you who have just kind of started here with the show, every year we do a Pick'em League. We do one for everybody. That's absolutely free. And we have some prizes for that. If you get in at the $3 level, you get in the official Seahawkers pod. What did we call it? We just called it the Patreon League, right? Yeah, that's what we called it.
Yeah, the Patron Pick'em League.
Yeah, exactly. And so a lot fewer people, obviously, in that league and some cooler prizes. So you kind of up your odds of actually winning something. So welcome to Tyler.
And Tyler left us a note on gettingtheflock.com. So, fellow Tom Brady haters, finally, I had the opportunity to join the flock. It has been on the top of my to-do list for about a month now, and today I have achieved my biggest life goal and joined my fellow Hawk fans on your guys' page. I'm so excited and truly enjoy each show, which I listen to each week at work for an hour on that day. I feel disconnected from all those ridiculously weird people who do not follow football. Laughing right now along with you guys, sometimes to the odd looks from coworkers. Please keep up the good work, and I am going to make my fiance join this week and plan to spread the word to every Hawks fan I know that they need to do something with their lives, like join the freaking flock. Thanks from Tyler.
I like it. Hey, thanks, Tyler. And look, man, the couple that gets in the flock together stays together.
That's true.
That is true.
Welcome to Mark Misselbrook, who's in for stickers and bonus shows. So thanks to Mark.
That's a solid last name. I like that. Misselbrook.
Yeah. And then welcome to the flock to Alexander Ernst, who's in for a sticker and bonus episodes from Berlin, Deutschland, Adam.
Holy smokes. Well, thanks from all the way over there, dude. And hopefully those stickers are able to make it across the Atlantic without too much problem. It seems to have worked in the past.
Yeah, they make it.
But yeah. Appreciate you helping out the show, man. That's awesome.
Alexander sent along a note. He says, "Hi, Brandan and Adam. I started watching American football in postseason 2013. Once I saw a guy named Beast Mode, the awesome stadium, the 12s, the talented young quarterback, I decided that this team would be my team. Since 2 years, I am also a member of the German Seahawkers and proud to be a member of the flock now. Looking forward to hearing your podcast every week and listening to the old shows in between, as I discovered your podcast just recently this offseason. You guys have the perfect combination of humor and information, and please keep talking about the O-line. It always makes me laugh when Adam shares his thoughts on this. Greetings from Germany, and go Hawks."
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And glad to know that there's at least one person that hasn't gotten sick of me being like, I just want like a really good left tackle.
I know.
Like that would, no. Is that too much to ask?
It's not too much to ask. But we should mention, you can go to getintheflock.com and be a member of the flock and help support the show. You know, we operate on the value for value model. So if you get any kind of value out of listening to this show every week, to donate at the level you feel most comfortable with. And one of the cool things that happened this last week, we had an anonymous donor, Adam. He's into this idea. We've talked all off season about our quest to get to 300 members of the flock. And this particular member of the flock wants more shows for the 2017 season. And we've said that once we get to the 300 level, 300 members of the flock will put together some recap shows right after the games. In addition, you know, we're going to continue to deliver our weekly show on a weekly basis. And then
plus the bonus content,
plus the bonus show, which this year, in addition to covering some of the Seahawks topics, that's where we're going to do our weekly pick'em show. So if you listen to us do the all 32 picks and IPA show, that's going away. Instead, it's going into the bonus show every week. So we'll be talking about our picks and no Jared this year. So for Seahawks fans, to not have a Broncos fan to listen to every week, that might be more of a bonus.
It might be more of a bonus. I was thinking that maybe I could get Jared to, you know, write down like his top 5 picks of the week or something like that, and maybe like a little note, and we could read that. But where Jared's at right now, no interwebs, so he's unable to do the pick'em show. But yeah, I think that'll work out well for the bonus content. And yeah, let's get to that 300 people. It'd be kind of fun to do the game recaps right after the game. It'd be probably the closest thing you'll get to a drunk podcast, because I'll probably be a little buzzed every time. But, you know, that's just how it goes.
And then in addition to that, we'll have our weekly appearances on the local radio here, too. So you're going to, if we get to 300, you're going to be sitting at about 4 shows a week. And so what our anonymous donor has said is that for everyone who joins at the $3 level or above, this person is going to match at the $3 level. So
holy cow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
Well, thank you, Mr. Anonymous Donor, who I know you are. You're awesome, dude. Appreciate that a ton. And look, so if you get in now, you don't just help us like, you know, just a little bit. You help us double a bit. Like you help us twice as much as you normally would.
Right.
Like, so, man, if there was ever a reason to get in the flock, that's the one right there.
So you can go to getintheflock.com and sign up there. And for the first show of every month, we like to run down and thank our members of the flock at the 12 level or higher. So let's run down the list, starting with Ella in Woodway, Texas, Ron in San Francisco, Christina in Manassas, Virginia, Young in Anchorage, Alaska, John in New York, Tim in Austin, Texas, Kevin in Keene, Texas, Kathy in Eureka, California, Gary in Chappaqua, New York, Also, a thanks to Jameson in Murray, Utah, Summer in Vancouver, Rochelle in Federal Way, and congrats to Rochelle and Jeremy on their wedding. Really cool to see that, Ro, in your Twitter feed this past week. Also, thanks to David in Camas, Washington, Ross in Eureka, California, James in Linwood, DCH in Sparks, Nevada, Keegan in Colorado Springs, and Sven in Teltow, Deutschland. A big thanks to all our top supporters, and we like to do that at the start of every month. Also want to thank a couple people who have left reviews in the past week or so, starting with Popstar Triple X from Great Britain.
That's great, man. Is it like he'd be like Vin Diesel, but also a pop star at the same time?
I think so.
Like, I don't know, like Ariana Grande and Vin Diesel mixed into one. That'd be a formidable package.
That is a really interesting combination.
Yeah, I know. Let that wash over you for a second.
This one's titled Kills Me Every Time. Great. As a UK Seahawker of the Steve Largent era, I'm always looking for ways to follow the Hawks and discovered this on my holiday to listen to. It made me laugh so much my wife told me off for laughing on my sunbed. I was listening on headphones so no one could hear what I was laughing at. I can heartily recommend it to all Seahawkers. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. We try to keep it at least lighthearted enough to where you get a chuckle, but we didn't want to get you in trouble. So, yeah, I mean, maybe I have to bring the humor down a notch, Brandon.
Maybe. Yeah. We don't need to cause any problems.
No, definitely not.
Next one here from Sergeant Seahawks. This is a U.S. review. It says, Deployment Blues Be Gone. I love listening to these podcasts downrange. It's really like hanging out with diehard Seahawks fans when you listen. I will miss most of this year's season as Syria, Iraq have time zones and satellite capability issues. Thank you for doing this for us. Vote for them on podcastawards.com.
No, well, thanks, man. Thanks for your service, obviously. I might reevaluate that if I were you, though. Like, I mean, I appreciate you keeping me safe and all that, but if you have to miss the entire season for it, man, I mean, putting your life on the line is one thing, but like having to risk missing an entire season of Seahawks football, I don't know, man. That's a big ask. I think when you evaluate joining any military service, you have, kind of the pros and cons. And I know when I went in, definitely on the con side was the chance that a football season could be missed. But, sometimes that's the risk that you have to take. Well, I promise you this. We will continue to put out the pod all through the season to try to keep you caught up on everything, man. And stay friggin' safe out there, dude. Well, as safe as a person can be in Iraq and Syria. Yeah. And this is one of my favorite reviews because this is exactly why I started the podcast, right? Yeah, absolutely. I know that definitely was a huge motivator for you as we got going. And I mean, something that was unexpected for me, not ever having experienced being deployed or something like that. It wouldn't have been something that crossed my mind. And now that it's something that we know we have quite a few fellas and ladies that listen across the world that are deployed for our freedoms. It makes it a little extra special doing what we do. Indeed. Well, Adam, what do you say we get into some email? All right, let's do it. Bring it. First one here from Kathy in Eureka, California. Says, hello, just listened to your most recent podcast and love the idea of Niners and Rams having a bad year. But don't really care as long as the Hawks have a great year and win the division. Oh, and pound the catfish out of Arizona. Ugh. Carson Palmer and Coach Arians, enough said. Ugh. I'm writing to comment on the email from the guy who doesn't like the podcast and won't listen anymore. Oh, okay. Fine then. Don't listen. Period. I'm so sick of people that criticize what other people are taking the time and effort to do. Hey, how about they try to do it instead of just judging others? I feel that way about people hating on athletes too. If you know so much, how about you give it a try?
Anyway, I really enjoy the podcast. I don't always agree with Adam, but that doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's talking about, and his willingness to share his opinions and experiences make for a fun listen. As example, the story of when he was in the mall and ran in to buy the hat so he wouldn't jinx the team had me laughing so hard. Can't we all relate to that? And as far as asking for donations, come on, dude, get real. Either donate directly or listen to a bunch of ads. By the way, I wouldn't blame you guys if you started running ads, and I would still donate. And as always, go Hawks.
Go Hawks, Kathy. Thank you. That was a very kind email. And, I like that she went to the place of, hey, I don't always agree with everything you got to say, but I enjoy listening. That's cool, man. Like, I don't expect everybody to agree with me. Hell, I don't even agree with me half the time. Man, like, there's times where, like, I'll go back and listen, to one in every 10 pods, and I'll have said something, then I'll be like, yeah, upon rethinking that might not have been the smartest thing to say. So, yeah. Some of the shows, Adam, that I listen to, the podcast, I listen to them specifically because they have a different point of view. And I want to understand a point of view that I don't have. Right. And so, yeah, I may not agree with anybody. If you're listening to just people that you agree with, then you're missing out on another side of the conversation you have no idea about. Yeah, that's actually a great point. You just end up in your little bubble. And that everybody's got their news bubble as a whole. Like, when you look at even just world news and that sort of thing. So, good on you, Kathy. Thank you very much for the kind email. And go Hawks, man. Yeah, and thanks to Kathy for all the support she's provided over the years, too. Yeah, she's awesome. Been great. Also, an email here from MK says, hi there. Discovered your podcast about a month ago after the Seahawkers podcast Twitter page followed me. I've been listening ever since and loving every episode. My dad was a track and field coach at the University of Georgia and raised me and my 4 brothers on the concept that college sports were the only ones that mattered. It wasn't long before the NFL piqued our interest, and we started watching more football on Sundays than Saturdays. However, without my dad's guidance on a team to root for, my brothers and I all went our separate ways on picking a team to follow. How did I become a Seahawks fan? Well, honestly, I liked the team's colors as a young girl and started following Seattle sports across the board. It was love at first sight. I've been obsessed ever since. Well, I wanted to send a note because I've been trying to become a patron. I want to donate $5 a month, but the website isn't letting me join. I've tried on a few separate occasions now and keep getting a memo that something went wrong. Well, I'll have to check back in and get back to MK because that's too bad. Yeah, that is. Usually it's been fairly seamless, so I'm sure it's not you. I'm sure it's us. Yeah, definitely us. I feel pretty strong about that. But she says, anyway, thanks for following me on Twitter because it was the reason I discovered the podcast. Excited to have something to listen to this summer and throughout the next football season and into future ones. Also, I believe I heard you guys mention on one of the episodes that you'll be coming to the Hawks-Giants game. I live in New York City now and will also be attending the game. Hope to meet you guys there. Go Hawks. That would be awesome, MK. Go Hawks. And I really am looking forward to the New York trip because we have a number of listeners out there, and we'll have to set up like a little event like the night before, the night after, or something. For sure. Or after the game. And try to get everybody together because, not only just so that we can meet you guys, so that you can meet each other, too. I mean, that's one of the things that has kind of come out of doing the pod over time is just the relationships that people have formed, the listeners with one another, which is really just astounding to me. Yeah, and the guys from the Pedestrian podcast, too. At least I know Stu is coming, and I think... Either Ross or Adam. I don't think all 3 of them are coming, but I know Stu for sure is going to be there. So, yeah. Cool. If you listen to the Pedestrian podcast, those guys are going to be there, too. I'm sure we'll all find a place to get together. It'll be fun. Yeah, and if you're not listening to the Pedestrian podcast, your Seahawks sickness isn't high enough. Like, you're not infected enough. I know. I just listened to it today, and they were promoting the podcast award thing for us, so that was cool. Oh, well, thanks, fellas. And it's all closed up now. So thanks to everybody who helped vote us in, and we should know right around the time of the game against the LA Chargers if we made it into the finals. Yeah, that sounds great, dude. And follow MK on Twitter at ELLOMK. And 2 more here. Man, you weren't kidding. Ton of email this week. All right.
One from Brett in Sydney says, "Ahoy, gentlemen. Sorry to hear about your breakup last week with fatty acid. As Cantankerous Adam said, you can't be everyone's cup of tea. But for the record, I would much rather listen to you guys than Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Keep up the great work and go Hawks."
Go Hawks, man. Apparently that touched a nerve with a few of the listeners.
Yeah, a few people.
Yeah.
Finally here, one from Eric in Boise. And Eric, he contributed on the last show. We gave him a welcome to the flock, but I missed his note here, so wanted to share it. Says, "You finally shamed me out of my donation procrastination and into action."
Donation procrastination has a ring, man. That's a good little phrase.
Yeah, don't be into donation procrastination. Getintheflock.com.
Yeah.
Adam's plea for us to help him have more time with his daughter tipped the balance. I'm hoping that my whopping 25 cents per episode will forestall the need for you guys to escalate to the audio equivalent of parading out pictures of starving children and shivering pets.
Whatever. I got Sarah McLachlan on standby here. She's going to start singing songs. It's going to get real depressing.
Oh, that was the worst commercial ever. I got hooked on your awesome podcast last winter, but it was the episode many months back when Adam talked about the newly discovered TRAPPIST-1 solar system with its 7 Earth-sized planets that I went, that's it, I'm donating. And now we have Brandan talking about artificial intelligence. I'm in. I don't have to listen to Star Talk Radio anymore. I just have to listen to you guys to get all my science and Seahawks info in one podcast. It only took me half a year, but I've finally done better and become a patron. You're both truly making a quality product. We appreciate it. Ignore the rare hater and don't change a thing and keep on begging. Go Hawks.
Hey, man, don't plan on changing that. Thank you for your money. And now my daughter and I don't have to cry ourselves to sleep tonight. So thank you for that 25 cents an episode, no doubt.
It helps. Every little bit helps.
You're going to be pleasantly surprised with my Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week because it is indeed science related. So don't need to tune in to Neil deGrasse Tyson because what does he know? Definitely get all your science news from me.
And then Eric sent along a little note for us to read off air too. And so we will do that. Well, you know, the big thing about getting in the flock this year, Adam mentioned the Pick'em League and the really cool prizes that we have this year. We have a lot this year. We have a Steve Largent autographed jersey. We have a Steve Largent autographed football. We've got a Kurt Warner autographed jersey and a signed mini helmet. That's the real Kurt Warner, not the fake Kurt Warner that played for the Rams and Cardinals.
Yeah, Kurt with a C.
Right. How a man spells it.
Exactly. Kurt.
And of course, and then we have some current players as well. We have a Doug Baldwin autographed mini helmet, a Cliff Averill signed mini helmet, and we'll have 2 top prizes for the Open Pick'em League for everyone who listens to the Seahawkers podcast, and then the top 5 of the Patron Pick'em League. So for those who are members of the flock, top 5 get prizes in that league. And then we also, last year, we did weekly prizes for our members of the flock. So definitely it should, if you want to get in, join the Pick'em League, go to getintheflock.com and we'll have instructions on how to join the leagues in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. And it's a great way to increase your mini helmet collection if you're trying to start a football team of leprechauns. Like it's a great way to get them outfitted.
And then if we get to 300, we're giving away the Pete Carroll autographed mini helmet.
So just to recap, if we get to 300, we're going to do more shows right after the game. So you can listen to us either be excited or freak out, like with initial reactions. And there's a chance to win a Pete Carroll autographed mini helmet. That should be motivating.
And all the bonus content.
Oh, right. Did I forget to mention that too?
Yeah.
Man, there's a lot of reasons to try to get to that 300. Plus, you won't have to listen to Sarah McLachlan.
We should have led with that. You won't have to listen to Sarah McLachlan if you get in the flock.
Exactly.
All right, Adam. Well, what do you say we get into some do better and better at life?
All right, man. Why don't you go first on Do Better here?
I'm going to go first this week because we had a listener submission for a Do Better, and I had to agree. This is from Russell in London, and he left a comment on the website with a link to this Sports Illustrated Monday Morning Quarterback article by Andy Benoit, or Benoit. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Benoit.
I like that better. It's the MMQB top 400 players. And Russell says, worst ranking than Prisco. And in particular, this has to do with Russell Wilson. So,
what?
Yeah. Yeah. The good thing here is that I love how our listeners have their radar up to find the biggest doubters and detractors of Russell Wilson. And so I appreciate people who are willing to look out for this. And Andy Benoit has Russell Wilson on a list of top 400 players in the NFL. Knowing that this is kind of negative, where do you think Russell Wilson landed on this list?
Out of just all 400 players. We're not talking quarterbacks. We're talking any position, just anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Since this was probably a slight, I'm going to give him 67th.
Russell Wilson is ranked 139th.
What did they take? Did they take the punter from the Jaguars that was selected the round before him and say he was the 138th best player? What a joke show.
Just running down the list of quarterbacks ahead of Russell Wilson. Tom Brady made the list at number 1. Okay, whatever. Aaron Rodgers at number 6. Ben Roethlisberger 16. Matt Ryan 28. Andrew Luck at number 30. A full 109 spots ahead of Russell Wilson. Andrew Luck 7 spots ahead of Drew Brees. Phillip Rivers at 88. Eli Manning at 104.
Wait a second.
I'm not done. Matthew Stafford at 117. Derek Carr at 124. I think Carr's a little low on this too. Joe Flacco at 136.
Wrong.
Joe Flacco, 3 spots ahead of Russell Wilson.
Unfreaking believable.
But Russell is in ahead of Carson Palmer and Cam Newton. So I guess there's that.
Dude, Andy Benoit's been eating too many beignets or something, dude. It's gone to his head. That's stupid. That's just. But I guess how many quarterbacks did he have ranked above him? Like 6 or 7?
11, I think.
11? He's even got him out of the top 10 in just quarterbacks? Man, just stop it.
Yeah.
Maybe
11 ahead, and Russell is number 12.
Well, I guess it's a little fit him being number 12, but I mean, even still, dude, that's madness, dude. Does he even watch football? How did he get this job? Monday, I mean, it's from the site is called Monday Morning Quarterback, correct?
Yeah.
You think out of all the positions, they'd know quarterback more than anything.
Well, they don't know cornerback either, because looking down the list of cornerbacks, Richard Sherman at number 130 on this list. Let's take a look at some of the corners that are apparently better than Richard Sherman. Patrick Peterson, Desmond Trufant, Marcus Peters. You can maybe make an argument. Maybe, but probably not.
Not for Trufant.
No. Trufant's number 2 on the list.
Yeah, no.
I don't know why there's not any Broncos in that top 3 either. That seems kind of weird, but
that seems a little odd too.
Then you get down to the 60s. You got AJ Boye, who the Texans didn't want to even keep him on the team, pay him, so he went to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right.
Jason Verrett of the LA Chargers, who I don't even know if I know who that is.
He's a decent player.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aqib Talib, I know him. Josh Norman. Xavier Rhodes, who just didn't. It was Rhodes, the dude that just signed a big deal
with the Vikings.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was time for him to re-up or not, but he's a fine player.
Yeah, and I think he was the dude that the Vikings picked up the year that we traded our pick to them for Percy Harvin.
Right. Him and Cordell Patterson.
Right.
Ended up being picks in that trade. Yeah.
Yeah. Janoris Jenkins, Vontae Davis, Malcolm Butler. Oh, I hate seeing that name ahead. Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden. Is he still playing?
He could have a good year this year. You don't know.
Stephon Gilmore. He's who the Bills declined to keep. Trumaine Johnson. Delvin Brao of the New Orleans Saints.
What, you don't have that right off the top of your head? Well, that's a very New Orleans name, isn't it? Like some French name that ends with an X.
Bro, maybe it's Bro. Delvin Bro. Okay. Delvin Bro.
Wouldn't be bad. Yeah, bro.
And then at number 130, 3 spots behind Delvin, is Richard Sherman, 3 spots ahead of Casey Hayward of the Chargers.
Okay, so Richard Sherman behind some dude that you couldn't even pronounce his name.
Right.
So he can't. So I think Russell in England was right to call out Mr. Benoit over his rankings of another Russell and Richard Sherman. Clearly, he doesn't know how to judge people who throw passes, and he doesn't know how to judge people who break up passes.
No.
Passing is a complete enigma.
And for that, Andy, and your last name I don't know how to pronounce. Do better.
Do better.
I thought about going after NFL Network. I don't know if you saw them picking the 2016 schedule. How Heath Evans and Elliot Harrison go through the schedule and pick the wins and losses.
Yeah, that really important exercise that means a lot.
Well, yeah, but the problem is that they were picking from the 2016 schedule rather than the 2017 schedule. And
it might not make any difference at the end of the day. To be honest, as accurate as that exercise is.
Here's the funny thing about it is that people saw this and the analysis of it was so generic that nobody could recognize the fact that this was just a rerun of last year's and not them making a mistake and putting up the wrong schedule. Because the guys were on there, they were talking about how, in the Carolina game that Greg Olsen had caught the touchdown pass the last year in the game against the Seahawks. That was like the one, and they were talking, and there was like kind of a reference to Marshawn Lynch being retired. But other than those, the analysis was so generic you couldn't tell. You could have been analyzing any NFL schedule.
Yeah, it sounds about right. I mean, I guess if you're covering all 32 teams at all times, it'd be difficult to have great insider information about each and every one. But I mean, that's why you have specialty niche places to tune in to get news about the teams you love, like, say, the Seahawks podcast.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of NFL Network, my do better this week is for somebody who is in the employ of NFL Network, a fellow podcaster, somebody who knows of the Seahawks podcast existence. I know he does because he's mentioned it on his show before. None other than Dave Damashek.
Oh, now I don't know if I like this. I don't know. I know
you love
this.
Damashek. I know you love it, and I like him for the most part. I just don't like it when he starts doing the what if scenarios. That drives me nuts. But that's his thing. I get it. Another thing that he started doing starting in 2014, apparently, is grading, because it's a silly season for lists, making a list of the top or just ranking the top triplets on every team. And so that consists of your quarterback, running back, and a pass catcher is basically the way that I see it. And the way that he did it is he tried to take and rank each person by position at each position, and then whatever combination of those guys as a threesome together, and kind of rank them that way, taking into account how they rank individually. And I imagine he started doing this exercise because his beloved Pittsburgh Steelers have Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Brown, right. Arguably the top, set of triplets in the league. So no way. He just started doing it right then so he could talk about the Steelers more. I'm stunned. So without further ado, Mr. Damashek has the Steelers at number 1. Oh, lo and behold, I can't believe it.
For the fourth or fifth year in a row, probably?
Yeah, I'm sure. Over the last 4 years, yeah, it seems like that's about where he would have them every time. And even when Ben Roethlisberger retires, you'll probably still put them up there as the number 1 because that's how big of a homer he is, which I love that he's actually upfront about that. But then it kind of goes from there. And you got to imagine, this is all 32 teams, so the Seahawks are going to pop up at some point, Brandon. You made me guess a little bit, knowing that it was a little bit of a slight on the last list. Where would you guess a Seahawks triplets of Russell Wilson, and he's got Eddie Lacy, which, again, speaks to how he's got this screwed up as your back, and Doug Baldwin, the receiver there. Take a guess where he'd have that set of triplets ranked within the league.
Well, see, I've seen triplets done in different ways on different lists, too, and the next logical way to put in triplets would be to maybe consider Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin, and Jimmy Graham. If maybe you don't have,
but that's not how he's doing this list. He's doing it a quarterback, running back, and a receiver.
Okay, so this is the pure triplets list,
right? But you can have a tight end as your receiver.
Okay,
like it's just somebody who receives the
catcher.
Football.
Yeah,
use your pass catcher, correct?
Oh, I'm gonna guess that he must have them outside the top 10. I'm going to go 14.
You were dang close, man. You were dang close.
No.
He's got him all the way down. Here, let me just double check. But I believe it is number 15.
Oh.
Number 15. Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin, who caught more touchdown passes than any receiver in the NFL 2 years ago. And he's got the wrong running back up there, but say you put Thomas Rawls up there instead. And you've got them at 15. A quarterback who's been to 2 Super Bowls, has won 1 already, has never missed the playoffs in his career, and has had double-digit wins each season. The trigger man of that offense. You've got that all the way down at 15. Now, there's some above him where you're like, okay, that's fine. Like I can get over that. But at number 2, the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and Des Bryant. Call me when they've won something in the postseason.
Yeah.
That puts them automatically below that 3 right there. Then what a joke show that is, especially playing behind that offensive line. Give me a break. That totally overrated. Then at number 3, he's got the Atlanta Falcons. I've talked at this ad nauseum. Matty Mediocre will be that once again after Kyle Shanahan's gone. Devonta Freeman, he's your world beater at running back.
Yeah.
And then you have the all-world talent in Julio Jones. I can understand how that puts you up there. So, look, Matt Ryan had a big year last year. I can see him being up above. That's fine. But the Cowboys, come on, man. Then he's got, at number 4, the Carolina Panthers. Cam Newton had an abysmal year last year, shoulder surgery, and they've got the running back listed as Christian McCaffrey. How many NFL snaps have you seen him play, Brandon?
0.
Zero.
I know
We
the
don't know
exact
what
answer
the
to
crap
that.
he's going to do. This is BS. And Greg Olsen is the pass catcher. I get it. But at number 4 and a full 11 spots above Russell Wilson and company, what a joke. Then he's got, and this one stings a little, the Oakland Raiders, Derek Carr, Marshawn, and Amari Cooper.
Okay.
Hard to argue that.
I might put that ahead.
Yeah, that's tough. That put the dagger in the heart just a little bit more.
But again, other than Lynch, who's won anything?
Yeah, but I think you can see the ascension of talent after a couple of years with Carr and Cooper and company.
Yeah, I know.
But again, yeah, I mean, how can you put them above when they haven't done diddly poo in the postseason at this point? So then you've got. Then you've got at number 6, the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers, Ty Montgomery, Jordy Nelson. Okay, fine. They have a wide receiver playing running back, but whatever. Number 7, Tom Brady in the New England Patriots. Doesn't even matter who you put in around him. I get that. And then at number 8, New Orleans, who can't even make it past 500 the last few years, with Drew Brees, whose shoulder basically fell off last year, Adrian Peterson, who is ancient, and guess their receiver's name, Brandon. You can't, because his name is Mike Thomas. What a joke that is. Like, I mean, that's again ahead of Russell Wilson and company. Number 9, and this really, I mean, seriously, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You put a trio that includes Jameis Winston ahead of Russell Wilson. Do better, man. That's terrible. It gets even better from there. Because my hated Miami Dolphins. Number 10, Ryan Tannehill, drafted the same year as Russell Wilson and hasn't done crap in his career. Jai. And just because he has a name you like, it doesn't mean you can put him up there, right, Brandon? And Jarvis Landry. Nope, no thank you.
Jarvis Landry is not better than Doug Baldwin.
Nope, not even close. So good luck with that one. Then he's got at number 11, Rivers, Melvin Gordon, and Keenan Allen of the Chargers. That's debatable, I guess. Number 12, this one really pisses me off. The Arizona Cardinals. Carson Palmer, David Johnson, and Fitz. 2 of those guys are a half a step away from needing their family to come and visit them at the retirement home.
If this list was 5 years old, then
maybe.
Maybe.
Number 13, Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts with Frank Gore in his walker and T.Y. Hilton. Doug Baldwin's better than T.Y. Hilton. Frank Gore, the old gray beard, I don't think he's got anything left. And Andrew Luck is probably going to start on the PUP list and miss the first 6 weeks of the year.
Don't even take the injury into account. Russell Wilson is better than Andrew Luck.
Duh! Like, I mean, it's just, proof is in the pudding at this point. Come on. And at number 14, a spot ahead, the Cincinnati Bengals with Andy Dalton, Joe Mixon, who once again hasn't played a down in the NFL, didn't hardly play a college snap last year, and AJ Green. All right, AJ Green's the bum. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it with AJ Green. But Andy Dalton, the Dalton line, like, I mean, he had a season that is utterly forgettable last year. And a running back that you've never seen do anything in this league above a guy who has won to the Super Bowl, gone to 2, a wide receiver who is woefully underrated in this league, and a running back who's going to light the league on fire. Just an absolute joke. Dave Damashek, your ranking of triplets is terrible. I hope they never let you in a hospital to do like a beauty competition between triplets, because you'd screw that up too. Do better.
Do better, indeed. Holy smokes. That is way too low.
That's bad.
I mean, you got the wrong running back for one, but the one thing I can appreciate when you look at triplets, you have Russell Wilson, a quarterback drafted in the 3rd round, the same year where you had 2 top quarterbacks who everybody was fawning over in Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III. Seahawks get him in the 3rd round behind Ryan Tannehill, behind who else went in that draft ahead of him?
And Brock Osweiler went in the 2nd.
Brock Osweiler, that was the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, and then if you look at who it should have been, Thomas Rawls, undrafted guy, and then Doug Baldwin, undrafted guy. I like how that looks, because to me, when I see that list by Damashek, I see him giving a lot of deference to guys that were drafted in the 1st round.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a roundist.
He is.
That's what he is. Yeah. Yeah, he has a blind spot where it comes to where you've been drafted. So, sorry, Dave, you're screwing this one up.
Indeed. Well,
we know he will stop doing the list the second Big Ben retires. So maybe we'll only have to deal with this for another year or 2, because then it won't be fun for him anymore.
It won't be as fun. Yeah. Well, it just goes to show you list season is not over, because still hanging in there in our Do Better segments, lists.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're getting close to the end of it, so that might be the last time you have to deal with it for the rest of the year, which would be great.
It would be. Getting into Better at Life, my Better at Life this week is for Seahawks beat reporter from ESPN, Sheil Kapadia. And this is based off of seeing some of the beat reporters around from other teams. And I'm reminded about, we had that period between Mike Sando and Sheil Kapadia, where I don't know if there was a beat reporter for ESPN. I've tried to block it out, but
he was really familiar with left turns.
Yes, really liked left turns, and probably was watching that instead of covering Seahawks football. So, and now I'm reminded of it because I'm looking at some other beat reporters articles from other teams, and with headlines like "Game slowing down for Fournette," and that's good news for the Jaguars. Leonard Fournette hasn't even taken a snap yet, an NFL snap. How is the game slowing down for Fournette?
Well, after three practices, Brandon.
After 3, it's because in the 3rd, I read the article, I found out that in the 3rd practice, they put on pads and things slowed down for him. So maybe because other guys run
just because
slower.
He's weighted down? Yeah, I don't know.
They have the pads on? I don't know. But apparently that's good news for the Jaguars, that the game is slowing down for him now.
Man.
And then another one that made me laugh. Forgotten free agent Lance Kendricks compliments Martellus Bennett.
Woo!
Why is your beat writer already forgetting the free agents that were signed in the offseason? The beat writer forgot that Lance Kendricks joined the team in the offseason? How is that a good beat writer?
Yeah, to be fair, though, I mean... Well, Lance Kendrick comes into the team. You're not lighting your hair on fire over that one.
No, you're not. And Martellus Bennett is clearly the star of the offseason and either of the Bennett brothers are going to get, a significant portion of the news because they're actually interesting dudes.
Correct.
So you can maybe understand it. But the fact that your beat reporter is admitting that he's forgotten.
Right.
But the point is that football is back. And instead of continuing the offseason run of puff pieces like some other teams are, we're getting actual analysis and actual reports and things that are in depth from Sheil. And that's what I appreciate most. I really liked this article he did recently on Russell Wilson, talking about how Russell wanted to play 25 years and was kind of molding his offseason regiment and all the different trainers that are going into making him better. I read that Russell Wilson's training at Freddie Roach's gym. And I don't know if you know who Freddie Roach is, Adam, but he's essentially trained like all the greatest boxers like ever. Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya, I think he trained him a little bit.
You name the fighter, he's been involved, it seems like.
Yeah. Some MMA fighters, too. So Freddie Roach, a big deal in the boxing world. It's just interesting to hear Russell Wilson, training in different ways to trying to, keep his mind right, keep his body right to be able to play for a really long time. And then the analysis, too, that he put into Eddie Lacy. And one of the reasons, some of the advanced metrics that the Seahawks looked at into why Eddie Lacy made a good fit for the team and in terms of his ability to break tackles, because they found out that, when you look back, the Seahawks hadn't been great at breaking tackles. And a lot of that was because Thomas Rawls was injured and out. And guys like Alex Collins, CJ Prosise, and Kristen Michael weren't the greatest at breaking tackles. So they have that insurance now. And a lot of that was due to some of the stats that you look at with Eddie Lacy. And so for putting in the extra work, for giving us real content that you can actually make you want to go to ESPN.com and read. Sheil Kapadia, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Yeah, man, he really has upped the game. And I've mentioned this on the pod before of the reporting on the Seahawks section of the ESPN website since he's come on board. Definitely appreciate his reporting, no doubt about it. And a nice guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Always insightful when you hear him on the radio, local radio shows. And always, we listen to the press conferences. He's one of the better guys at asking questions, too.
That's true. All right, Brandon, my better at life than Skip Bayless this week is for KIC 8462-852. And I'm sure you're very familiar with this, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about?
At first, I thought maybe it was a username of somebody who left like a really good comment, a comment on a blog. But now that we're thinking, now that my brain has moved into the science realm, this must be the name of a planet or star system.
It's a star, KIC 8462-852. Now, if you have a hard time remembering that, I can give it to you a different name for it that is more commonly referred to. It's called Tabby Star. And Tabby Star is very interesting. It's a star that has been being observed for the last, since about 2013. And it's being observed by the Kepler Space Telescope. And for those of you who don't know, this is how we discover planets that go around other stars. Basically, if this telescope's looking at the star and a planet crosses across the face of the star, the brightness of the star dips, it dims. And you can measure that. And if you see it come around regularly, you're like, oh, that must be a planet that's going around that star. Because about every, depending on the star, let's say, every 3 years, like it dims, 1%, 2% every time, at a very predictable rate. Right. And this is how we discover exoplanets, which is really cool. And it's something the scientists have been doing for a long time. Well, Tabby stars, well, a little bit different because it's where aliens are, Brandon. I'm telling you, it's where aliens are. And here's the proof.
We found them. We finally found them.
Aliens. We have found aliens. So back a few years ago, it was noticed that Tabby Star not only dimmed, but it dimmed a huge amount. The first time that they noticed it, it dimmed somewhere around like 13, 15%. Whereas, say, like a star this size, if a planet Jupiter size went across it, it should dip about 1%. So the amount of light that dipped was enormous. So whatever went across the face of this star in between us, the Kepler telescope, and the star was a giant mass. It was a giant mass. And it turned out to be irregular. We've seen this star become brighter and dip in totally weird intervals. And the most recent one, up until just a couple months ago, the star dipped up to 22%.
Whoa,
so this is an
more.
enormous amount. So one of the things that have been theorized is that we could be witnessing what is called a Dyson sphere that has been built around this star. And basically the theory goes like this. It's by a scientist of the last name Dyson back in the 60s. His thought process was there comes a point where you need so much energy as a civilization that a very truly technically advanced civilization would build a sphere around a star that actually, absorbs the energy from the star like solar panels. And it was dubbed a Dyson sphere. Some other people call it a Dyson swarm. Think of a swarm of tiny solar panels around a star to absorb the energy from the light in a much more efficient way than we can do now. I mean, we only can absorb a tiny little bit that hits our planet, right?
Right.
And so for something to absorb this much energy, it's got to be something that we have never seen before because it is completely irregular. Well, here just in the last month, they've been seeing the star now dip again after being dormant for a while. And they've now ruled out some other theories, like a planet that had broken up and like debris kind of floats around, that there was maybe a comet swarm that went around it on an irregular level and all that. And some new studies have suggested that they're no closer to finding the answer here, which leads me to even believe even more. It's got to be aliens, and to Tabby Star for basically letting me believe that there is an alien megastructure in space that we have now discovered. You are better at life than Skip Bayless.
I like it. Mostly because I like believing in aliens too. So,
and the other thing that's really weird about this star is it is dimmed by a factor of about 16% overall over the last 100 years. So the amount of energy that is coming out of it is also dimming, suggesting that maybe some of that energy is being pulled off and used to, power an alien race out there that we'll someday make contact with and, sing Kumbaya, or maybe they'll wipe us out. But either way, it's pretty cool.
We hope it's a lot less like Independence Day. And
it'd be exactly like Independence Day because we kicked their butt.
Right.
But, yeah. I mean, there's some other historical references that, of people conquering other people that we don't want it to be like that.
No. Oh, that's
That'd be
a
no
good point.
bueno.
Well, we don't want it to be like the movie Alien.
No. There's nothing more terrifying than things popping out of your chest.
Although I do think the Sigourney Weaver would probably save us.
Oh, for sure. Like, still, of course.
Well, yeah. Still, of course.
I put all my faith in Sigourney Weaver.
All right, Adam. Well, it's good to get back into it. Back into talking some football, because we did see actual football players on an actual football field this past week.
Doing football things. It's pretty great. So enjoy this, folks. We look forward to talking to you more here as the offseason continues and as we get into preseason games. And in between now and then, if you're not getting enough, watch training camp online. If you like watching big dudes run into pads, then that'll be for you. Doing drills. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, 10 o'clock almost every morning at Seahawks.com. We're tuning in.
Yes.
And that reminds me, Tim mentioned that what he does, what he started doing was, while watching the live feed on Facebook, is that you can actually tag the Seahawkers podcast in the live feed of the Facebook. And just a helpful way to let people know that you're a listener of the Seahawkers podcast, and to let them know where to find our Facebook page.
That's pretty cool, man. Yeah, so get on that, folks. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.